Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, joined once more by Sam for the first episode of Year 3. I don't know why I keep calling it Year 3. It feels like a Year 3. This is the annual series. It's the Cinema Savvy Christmas Classics, the Christmas series where we get to talk about films maybe from our childhood, films you haven't seen. We revisit them in the festive season. Disclaimer, not a review, not an intense deep dive, more of a relaxed discussion. Christmas in the film, maybe our memories with it, some thoughts on the film too, as always. But it is weird doing it for a third year because we have that really awkward, as I just said before we hit record. We haven't done this for a year. Let's try and remember how to do it. How are you
What
doing,
do we
Sam?
do? What did we do? I mean, I'm good. I'm excited to get back to this series because it's always like really chill, really fun. But it is just kind of like for me, it's like the official start of the build up to Christmas. Is this series, as well as Thanksgiving, which we'll be recording this the day after Thanksgiving. Side note: my friend is American and she does Thanksgiving every year, so that's why I'm always like, that's when Christmas starts for me. But now there's two things, including Cinema Savvy's Christmas Classics. Very happy to be back, and we've got another classic today, which is The Santa Claus.
Yeah, released in 1994, and this is going to be. I was about to say fun to do. Regurgitating the steps because the Pixar series is ongoing at the moment. My brain is in like deep dive intensity, behind the scenes production notes, what could have been, what wasn't been, what's different now, and it's like I need to drop all of that for this to do a little bit of that, but to have a nice chat. So my brain's in a struggling mode. It's another Tim Allen film because at the time of this video going up, we've just dropped we've not just, on Tuesday just gone, our Bugs Life discussion went up. I can't even remember when we recorded that, if we knew we were doing the Santa Claus or if we knew we were doing Christmas. No, we did. We arranged it in the morning. This is how
Yeah. This
weird
is
my
how.
brain is.
Yeah, we had spoken in the morning. Was it a Saturday? Was it Saturday?
I think it was I think me and you had a
Or
chat on a
Sunday?
Sunday lunch and we
Yeah.
recorded it like Sunday evening.
Yeah,
So
that was
I
it.
hope I plugged it, but if I didn't, go back to our Bugs Life video, skip to end and find out. And obviously, also because the Toy Story 2 review's coming, what will be this Tuesday, and with us talking to Santa Claus, of course, it stars Tim Allen. That was kind of one of the big reasons why we chose this. And before we talk with our history of this film, I want to very quickly talk about the Christmas Classic series. This year, obviously, we do every year. We have to alternate release dates. We have to take into account things going on, not just in our personal lives, on the channel, well, the other way around, things different on the channel, more importantly, our personal lives. So we're uploading on Sundays and Thursdays. There's going to be 6 of them this year. And like the first 2 years, we will do an obligatory Christmas Eve upload. So we'll end the season for this year on Christmas Eve, which I think is a Wednesday.
Yes.
And we'll be revealing each film at the end of every video. So you'll find out what we're doing this Thursday at the end of this video. Sam, have I missed anything or have I remembered it correctly?
No, I think that's everything. I think if you've missed any of the previous Christmas classics, then go back and watch those. I think they're all in a playlist, I think, aren't they, George?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a playlist on the channel. They're not contextual time-wise, so you can check them on any. We don't do it as like a continuous series of you've got to come back next week or do it in order. This is the 11th one across 3 years, and it's nice. It's starting to fill up quite a bit. We have done like 90s films, noughties films from our childhood, romances, comedies, action films, alternate Christmas films. We're trying to keep the same approach this year, that we're not doing the sort of same type of film 5 times, because then we might be on a lull. And we've already discussed some films we want to talk about next year, because it's a very busy December 2026 in the film industry. At the time of recording, apparently Avengers Doomsday and Dune 3 are going to come out on the same day, which there's no way that's happening. And I think the Avengers trailer is coming soon. But let's kickstart with something different to the Pixar series, and let's do the Letterboxd synopsis for continuity purposes. The synopsis is a bit far too long, which is why I've stopped doing them on every other series already. On Christmas Eve, divorced dad Scott Calvin and his son discover Santa Claus has fallen off their roof. When Scott takes the reins of the magical sleigh, he finds he is now the new Santa and must convince a world of disbelievers, including himself. I've got to say, for Letterboxd's standards, that's shorter than the things we've seen before. And compared to IMDb, that's much better. Whilst it is the whole film, it's not nonsense around the whole film.
Yeah. It does. I was going to say the first half does sound like it could be describing a Hallmark film. It feels like, okay, fell off the roof, and then, it turns out not only did he have to save Christmas, but he also had to save his love life and marriage or whatever, which is not what this film is about. The Santa Claus 2, on the other hand, completely different story. But yeah, I think that's quite a succinct, nice description. I had wondered why, actually. I've not even asked you this about why you were doing IMDb on the Pixar series.
Well, historically on the channel, this even not predates me, but Tate would always read out the IMDb synopsis for every review under the sun. And I was a bit sort of arrogant and be like, well, everyone knows what the fucking film is. But actually, the reality is, and they didn't, because sometimes people are clicking on films they don't know. So I think when we started doing, maybe it was the Spielberg series, I'd put the IMDb plot synopsis on just for continuity on the schedule. And I've only recently, in the last month, 2 months, I can start saying this behind the scenes. Again, this is not a behind the scenes series, but this is a bit more chill. Because I now do all my videos on my desk, when we're on a stream like this, my laptop's here. That's what I'm recording off. But if you guys see me on my own, I've got my camera set up on. So my laptop has to come down like here, like where my arms are. But the camera recording me is like above this camera here. So I'm able to look down at a laptop and basically do better schedules, have better notes, rather than standing up, looking into a camera and a light, trying to think of everything I spoke about, and then I end up missing loads of things. So I started restructuring our reviews, and I've just started bringing back the IMDb plot synopsis, although the Wicked for Good one made no sense. They probably changed it, but IMDb synopsis was literally a grammatical error, that it did not function as a sentence. And then I've started sort of doing my own after, not my own synopsises, but I sort of then regurgitate the start of the story. And I was like, I've just kind of done a synopsis, but a little bit better sometimes, or far worse sometimes. So it's something I'd want to get right. It sounds like I'm like doing free advertising for them. I wish I was. I wish they were paying us to say their names, but that's never going to happen. But yeah, all these behind the scenes thing. I'm not going to sit here being like loads of changes coming for formatting, but I have, if I can say it, I have started thinking about a rating system. And if I do that, that will go on reviews from 2026, because we're doing Christmas. It rounds out 2025. And I basically end every review with do I recommend seeing this, and how to see it, i.e. go to your IMAX or just go to cinema, wait for it to go on streaming, avoid it. I have a sort of, I've basically subconsciously built a ranking system. And I'm like, maybe I should actually start making that a thing without it sounding like a tier list and without delving into stars too much, because I'm very hypocritical with stars for me, myself. Like, I'd rate a 5-star comedy is going to be completely different to a 5-star drama.
Yeah.
That someone somewhere would be enraged that I gave a 2-star musical something when they prefer a 3-star action film.
Yeah. I found that with my friends when we've reviewed films together, and we've given them stars, and it's just kind of like, and we look back at what we've done, and then we go, how did we come at an average? We gave this film an average of this many stars, and we've given this film that we really enjoyed, this is the average, and it's below that. How did that happen? And there's usually not arguments, but it's like, we may need to come back to this. So I definitely understand kind of how it can be a flawed system.
The only one I really vibe with is 3-star, because it's 3-star to me is a recommendation. Like, it's watchable. That's the recommendation. Like, the recommendation of 3-star, it is watchable. It doesn't mean I don't say it doesn't mean I liked it, but it just means it's like, it's average, it's fine. Yeah, you could probably watch it. Then you get to 2.5, where I'm a bit like, oh no. And then you get to 3.5, it's like, I really liked this, but it's fine. But I really liked it for fine. Or I really liked it, but you're just not good enough to get 4. And then 4 is, I don't like doing half stars as much, but I very rarely put a 4.5, 4 or 5. And my little curve on Letterboxd is like that. Like, it's a, which it should, don't be arrogant to say which it should be, but this, you don't want to oversaturate a 5-star. But then you should not give a film 5 stars if you think it's a 5-star film.
Yeah. Oh,
Way off
100%.
topic. Is this a more interesting discussion than the Santa Claus about where we're going to go with this?
If it is, then that's scary.
I mean, let's talk the Santa Claus
Let's talk the
because
Santa Claus. Yeah.
I'll jump in my memories on this first because this is kind of my fault we picked this. I don't mean it in a bad way. I've got distinct memories of my childhood watching this film at Christmas with my nan every year. So she had passed away in 07, so I was like 11 at that point. But me and my siblings have like memories of films, more so Christmas time at her house. And I just always have memories of Santa Claus and Lilo and Stitch for some reason. Not for Christmas Lilo and Stitch, but and I was kind of like, when we're doing this, I'm like, I'd kind of like to revisit the Santa Claus at some point. I wasn't attached to it, but I was like, I have memories of it. I remember seeing a Santa falling off a roof, and I remember being Buzz Lightyear. I remember him growing a beard. I couldn't tell you the story. I couldn't tell you much else. I haven't probably seen this in 20 plus years until now. And it turns out I really remember nothing because it was a completely different film to what I thought. Not in a bad way, but I was like, you know, when you watch a film and you think it's going to start coming back to me, it never did. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. So, like I said, I've got memories with it in a nice family way, but not an attachment. And it was nice to go and watch it. I will say that as like an initial point. It was nice to see this film because I don't know when I'd be seeing this film otherwise.
Yeah, I don't have a completely similar background to you. I think, if honestly, my main memory of this film is probably the advertisement / trailers that would be on the Disney VHSs. So if anyone who remembers or who owned those, Disney VHSs that came out in the 90s, they would do kind of a selection of kind of adverts before. And I think in the A Bug's Life video, actually, I think I mentioned that. And one of the trailers was for the Santa Claus. And I used to love the trailer. I really liked it, but I never owned the film. And I don't really remember watching it much. I think if I did watch it all the way through, it would only have been once or twice. And it would have been at a really young age because I don't remember watching it past like 2002, 2003. And by that point, well, actually, not by that point, I can't remember when the second one came out, but when the second one came out, I got that on DVD. And that was what I watched quite a lot of. So my association of Tim Allen as Santa Claus and this franchise is with that film. So it's kind of weird to kind of not watch the Santa Claus 2 and go to the first film, which in general, I think most people know that this is kind of the basic plot of the film. But
yeah,
again, to have not seen this film in definitely 20 years at the least, and then having so many memories of the Santa Claus 2, and also having watched the Santa Claus 3 at the cinema, it's weird to then just go back to 1994 and see one of those kind of classic 90s Christmas films, which I think resonates with a lot of audiences, especially of people from our generation and I guess a little bit older. But I think 90s films hit quite a lot of generations because it's kind of that sweet spot right before everything gets very CGI heavy, I guess, and it still feels like there's so much practicality when it comes to creating these films. You can definitely see that with the Santa Claus.
Yeah, the 90s is my favorite cinematic decade. I think I've said before, I've never said to you. There's something about in the 70s, you get your Spielberg's, Lucas's, Scorsese's, everyone that breaks out of the without getting into boring film history, they break out the studio system. They become the faces of that generation. Then in the 80s, these guys are still at their peak, and you're getting like the action, the fun, the 80s aesthetic to go with the 70s, because the 70s is quite dour, depressing as a decade in terms of the filmmaking. 80s is more like the more popular filmmaking, the blockbuster filmmaking era. And then the 90s is not like a reset, but it's like we're going to sort of carry on the 80s. It's going to be very popular, but we're now going to get very popular films from filmmakers. It's going to be like a Goodfellas. I know it's 1990, but it's like these top tier directors are going to do their most popular films, and there's going to be a new generation coming in, And as you said, right, it's not quite CGI. You got a couple of big breakthroughs in that decade, but you're getting the generation below Scorsese, Spielberg, which is I don't want to say Nolan. I know he did his film in '97, but let's say your Tarantino's, your David Finchers, and it's like these are the guys that grew up on those '70s films. And the '90s, I think, to me, just made like a peak generation of filmmaking. And it's very, very ironic because the '90s is now hitting that. This makes me sound old. The '90s feels like the new '80s in terms of like retroism. There's a '90s bar in London that's opened that's meant to be amazing. Everyone's looking back at the '90s as this lovely little era. The football team I support, they make retro '90s kits all the time. And I'm just sat there like, man, the monetization of the '90s is here. I mean, I'm sat there saying they'll never do this to the noughties, but they probably will. And I won't know why or how until it happens. But
I mean, fashion trends already have, George. That's what I've noticed.
The square sunglasses, I don't like them. The flared jeans, they're all right. But I'm seeing more naughty stuff, which is it's like it's like the celebrities are getting younger. And they're not getting younger, but the celebrities that are getting like our age celebrities, they're now like, well, we just want to wear the shit we live with my kids, which I respect big time too. And I feel like that's where a lot of the fashion stuff's come from too. Is that fair to say?
I think so. I mean, I think honestly, the thing that really made me go, "Oh no!" Like we're getting old. Is Saltburn is set in 2005, 2006, and then
Roofman Roofman is set in 2004 and deemed a period piece film. I was 8.
There we go. I mean,
it's great, by the way, but it proper hit me. I was like, oh my God, a Toys R Us. Oh my God, Harry Potter and the Prison of Azkaban. Oh my God, Simpsons Hit and Run. And I was just sat there and I was like, oh no, oh no. And also, Mary Jane Watson's in it. And I'm like, that was like, one of the young crushes all the guys had, like, that were my age. Mary Jane from Spider-Man. And I was just sat there like, it's hit me. It's the noughties is now going to be period piece. And it's not a spoiler for Stranger Things, but I'm going to say this, but there is, I think they've de-aged one of the kids from Stranger Things in the new season. That's not a spoiler. This is out of context. I'm not crossing the boundaries, but I'm sat there like, would a 22-year-old be the youngest ever person to be de-aged in this industry? That's all I could think about. And that made me feel more disgustingly old that they were born in the 2000s. That's a really horrible thing to say.
That's why it's so nice to review / just watch a film that is from before we were born and go, okay, this is fine. And this is, I wouldn't even call this a period film because it's just kind of like, okay, this is just
it's the 90s.
Just another Christmas film that just happens to be in the 90s,
And the 90s had a lot of great Christmas films. Like the way we approach this series and where if people are very curious about how we pick films, we won't go into the whole thing, but we kind of have a discussion, and you called it tags, which is probably the summary, right? Obviously, Christmas is the big focus, but it's like, is there a romance option? Is there a comedy option? Is there an alternate option? And then we've sort of gone into we want the golden age of cinema option because it's a great way to learn more about that for me personally on top. But I must say, we kind of go for the 90s and noughties option. And I think I'm not being arrogant, I'm not dissing modern cinema, but I'm sat there like, either we're too new in the making of deeming something a classic film within the 2010s, but I feel like there's some of these noughties, especially early noughties and mid-late 90s, they're solidified now, whether that was through our childhood. But for me, I've got like it's not young cousins now, but we're a generation below. And I'm sat there like they would be watching these films as well. And my parents also be watching these films from obviously way past they were made. And I'm not saying I don't know if that's happening. I think there's a couple, but we're in the infancy of what could be deemed a classic Christmas film these days. And I think the 90s just lends itself to it more. I don't know why. I really don't, because I don't think of that many from the 70s either. I think a lot of 80s and 90s. Maybe it's the monetization of Christmas without being dour and depressing and corporate. But I don't know. Like, if I say it as a generalization, when we do those classic Hollywood films, that feels like it always feels so much more wholesome.
Yeah.
Whereas the 90s, the 80s, 90s, early noughties are like, not like, our generation. It feels a modern version of what came before. Am I allowed to say that? Does that make sense?
I guess it's just the evolution of cinema and how films are made. I mean, you've mentioned before about kind of the progression from a studio system, and how a lot of the golden age, films that we've seen / will be seeing, are from an age where it was all studios, and it was like, okay, it's very segmented, and this is how it's done. And I guess film had changed so much in that era compared to 20 years before in terms of color and sound, So I think it was just kind of finding the feet and kind of not pushing the envelope super far, still continuously pushing, because I mean that's what always happens, in the industry. It's never just the same for decades, on end. There's constant movement. But the difference between a film from the 40s and a film from the 90s is absolutely, you can barely describe it, because everything is different. The way in which films made are different. So there's so much to take from both of that anyway, and I think it's good. I think for us, and I think anyone who's interested in film in general, never mind Christmas films specifically, to kind of, try a bit of everything and kind of see that. And I think what I love about this series is that we're able to kind of go and not only check out films from our childhood, but find out films that we've never seen before, learn about some different genres within the overall genre of Christmas, if you're going to kind of classify that as that. So yeah, I think it's something that I really like to see. And I hope everyone is able to if you've not watched this film or any of the others that we watched, then go and source them out afterwards. Because no matter what we think, these are still, this is going to be someone's favorite Christmas film. All of the films that we've watched before is going to be someone's favorite Christmas film. And that's really special, because a favorite Christmas film can be completely separate from your favorite film in general. And it's always going to mean something a little bit different to you than it will to anyone else.
Yeah, agreed. And I think with this one as well, a huge thing in my childhood, and we'll probably get talking about him too in a big way, is the fact that Tim Allen's the main character in this. And I'll be the first to say I know a little bit of his past, i.e. the prison and the drug smuggling stuff, which I've always seen about and never read into too much. As in, I've read into a little bit more for this if I'm saying it, but I always knew Tim Allen's Buzz Lightyear. And it's not just because he played Buzz Lightyear. He has a very distinct voice, which I personally felt lent itself so well to Buzz Lightyear. And that's a different conversation that my Pixar brain's on. So whenever I see him in any project, and I don't see him in a lot, I'm going to say too, his voice I cannot not think of. I can look at Tom Hanks. I was watching the Phoenician Scheme today. Okay, he's got an accent. I can look at Tom Hanks, but okay, that's Tom Hanks, not Woody. But I can't make that because every time you hear Tim Allen, it's Buzz Lightyear. And I've not seen the sequels to these films. There was a TV series. Did they do on Disney Plus in recent years?
Yeah, I can't remember what Santa Claus is, I think, maybe.
Probably. It was very much that. I mean, talk about period pieces now. The COVID era, I feel, is bookmarked of streaming, where like everything that was something 20 to 30 years ago was given a long-term sequel that became a TV series on Disney Plus, because Bob Chapek was like, please go and make it, get us views. And all of that stopped now because they burned all their money. But Tim Allen is the big seller of this film for me personally, or wanting to revisit it. And I know obviously his politics are wildly different to everything else. And I know, oh God, I'm really trying to tell the Pixar brain. When Lightyear came out, there was all this nonsense. Oh, I've been cancelled. I was like, well, you haven't been cancelled because you're working for the same company making a series called Santa Claus. Or like, you're still doing the same thing from decades ago. Different conversation about Lightyear, because he should have been in Lightyear. But it was not a cancelled per se. But there's something interesting with this, and I don't know if I'm jumping too far in saying this. Originally, they didn't want Tim Allen. They went for Bill Murray first, who read the script and politely declined it, saying, I just don't envision myself playing this character. Which is very weird, because I see a lot of Bill Murray in this, if I'm allowed to say so. just the approach. I think Bill Murray could have done it. And the other candidate, which is where I'm going to bring in the Toy Story stuff, sorry, Stu Pixar chat again, was Chevy Chase, who is Tim Allen's idol. Chevy Chase declined it, just like he declined Buzz Lightyear. And then Tim Allen gets it because his idol said no. I find that fascinating, that maybe his two biggest roles were not his first option. But I'm going to also then double up with a question for you. Tim Allen was in a sitcom in the 90s and a sitcom in the 2010s. I've never seen either of them, but I know the director of this film, John Pasquin, was heavily involved. Yeah, and this very much feels like a Tim Allen production. And my understanding is that Disney, when they got around the drug stuff, like, it's fine, we'll get you in. It was literally this Tim Allen, like, this is your film. Like, take the reins, do what you want to do. Again, not to do too much behind the scenes stuff, but it's interesting. But I don't have that background of his other stuff to know how wildly different or similar this is to his other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think the difference when I was a kid, and I would see this, and obviously knew of this franchise as it was kind of starting and when it got its first sequel, I knew Tim Allen obviously from Toy Story, from this, and I knew Home Improvement. I definitely watched episodes of Home Improvement as a kid. So, and I think for me, anything that is even remotely like a sitcom scenario, if you're kind of the father and you're the main character of that, then sitcom dad, there's a certain vibe about a sitcom dad. And I guess when Home Improvement started, I think it was kind of at the time where the sitcom era was kind of shifting into, it's not just the wholesome family, and it's not just, kind of surface level troubles of a family. It's like, oh, there's going to be, potential some issues and stuff going on. And it's not like Married with Children, which is just kind of, oh, here's a little bit of this is an average family. And I feel like Tim Allen has like the balance of, oh, he can be that really lovely, nice family man, the dad, but, he's also got an extra layer to him as well. And I think that lends itself to a role like this. I can definitely see a side of Bill Murray doing really well with this, but I feel like in some ways it could be a bit too Bill Murray about it, that it takes away from the film and the character and everything else. I think because Tim Allen is so intrinsic to the film, like there's barely any scenes when he's not in it. It's really important that this character is done right. And I think it makes complete sense that, if John Pasquin was given this, that he would want to work with someone who he had a good relationship with. And obviously, if he'd already done some stuff with Home Improvement by that point, I think he directed and produced quite a few episodes, then it makes complete sense for that collaboration to continue. Although I don't know how much John Pasquin actually did. I think the only other thing I'm aware of that he did was Jungle to Jungle, which I've not seen. But
he only directed 3 films, and this is one of them.
Yeah.
Jungle to Jungle, this, and Miss Congeniality 2, which really was very random to see.
Wow.
But a lot of TV, like basically pretty much TV career, which is interesting. And it's kind of what you said about the Bill Murray stuff. I'll just jump in and say, we'll talk about like the themes of Christmas, but I could see Bill Murray doing I don't want to be Santa. I've kind of been tricked into being Santa. I don't want to do this. This isn't me. But I can't see Bill Murray being the father. Not to say he can't do a dad role, but what you said about Tim Allen, he can do the extra layer. I think Tim Murray, different character, Bill Murray would just be that, I'm going to do this angle of I don't want to do this, but I'm forcing into it. I can play he'd be getting back with the wife that left him as Santa, not I want to reconnect my son. Not to diss Bill Murray, but I think Tim Allen lends himself to the son angle a lot more.
Yeah, and I felt the humor would be too dry with Bill Murray. I feel like I don't feel like, well, who knows, but I just feel like it wouldn't be too much of a balanced performance compared to Tim Allen.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk a little bit about Christmas, because the one thing that I had no recollection of, I remember him Santa falling off, dying, he becomes Santa. Because obviously that's the story. Everyone knows the story.
It's like, oh, and firstly, oh my god, I'm like, okay, you've literally
What?
killed Santa.
I mean, not to be that guy, but I'm like, he fell off the roof. Well, he did slip and fall into a giant pile of snow. Okay, it's a Disney kids film. Like, don't be that guy. But I was sat there like, that was a very weak Santa. Like, maybe he wanted to. And this film opens a can of worms about legislations and people being forced into unasked slavery. But I just, for some reason, even though it's so obvious, I just didn't clock that it's set across 2 years. And I know it's basically, it's Christmas Eve now, and it's only going to be Christmas next year. They were delivering all the presents, and I was like, we're 20 minutes in. Like, what's going on? Like, I don't remember this. And then obviously the film really does take part. That, yeah, we'll see you in 11 months, says young David Krumholtz, which actually that did catch me by surprise. I was like, is that the one from 10 Things I Hear About You, who's an Oppenheimer, who's on the Career Resurgence, David Krumholtz? And it was, playing a very miserable teenage elf. Well, he's not a teenager in canon, but the actor was at the time. That just really threw me. But I really like, actually, that this sounds really intense because we're having a Christmas discussion. I like that basically it's like, yeah, we'll see you in 11 months, and it just goes forward 11 months. A little bit with the kid being addicted to Christmas throughout the year, but I actually quite liked because he's killed Santa, you're going to have to see him turn into Santa the following year. And I think it does that in a really unique way, that he doesn't just get fat on Christmas Eve with the beard. It's this like, oh my God, it's the month before. Suddenly I'm putting on weight. I'll take a shave and it grows back within a day. My colleagues are looking at me like, what the hell was wrong with that? Like, he's lived such a normal life for 11 months. I really enjoyed that for some reason, that it did the build up to Christmas quite nice.
Yeah, I had similar confusion. I was like, wait, what's the actual timing of this? And I think because I didn't necessarily enjoy kind of the in between, just because it felt like not that I needed it signposted more, but I really wish that they kind of leaned into kind of seasons a bit more and really making it a bit more obvious, because I was slightly confused about at what points of the year was this happening, or was it just a really gradual thing, or was it like, okay, now he's got a belly, now he's got a big beard, now his hair color is white, it was maybe I was just too tired of something when watching it, but I was just kind of like, I just wish it had been a bit more developed to actually acknowledge that the time is passing. But that was kind of my kind of small annoyance at that bit. But I think it's interesting to go from showcasing a Christmas so early and then having to circle back to the next one. Something that I also was kind of shocked about was how little time was spent at the North Pole. And for me, that's kind of something that is made up for in the sequel, but it makes me feel a bit more disappointed in this film, because I was expecting to see it more. You go into such a magical place, and I feel we barely scratched the surface of it. It's great to kind of see it, to have Charlie be there and kind of to see it through a child's eyes as well. But yeah, I just kind of wish there was a bit more. And I feel like that's how I feel about the film in general, to be honest. I wish there was a bit more. I actually would have been fine if there was like an additional 20 minutes or something, because I feel like there could have been more. I feel like it wrapped up quite quickly, and that the Millers were just kind of okay with everything too quickly by the end. It was,
it's a bit just, my son's gone missing for an entire month, and it's like, I'm with you, because the North Pole stuff is, I mean, if I get into the thing I put the schedule about, Santa's a title, I know it's how, you signed up for a contract, insert magnifying glass, the contract of being Santa Claus, you put the stuff on. I'm kind of with you. It's like, would he not like, we've not been making toys for a year, but I'm like, surely there's other stuff to do other than November the 1st or whatever, you get all the letters delivered. And I know it shouldn't be looked at that deeply. I'm trying to switch off like the analytical brain, but it's like, it is a bit not complex, but as you said, like, if you get a lot of time in some things, like personally, I think there's far too much time about the kid telling everyone his dad's Santa and he's not.
Hmm.
I like the middle third slows, but the opening third and the final third, I think, worked much better
Right.
pacing wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, I've not seen the Santa Claus 2, right? So I obviously what's going to come after or what's developed, what's improved. But you are right that you think about there's not a lot of the North Pole, and it's a great, humongous set, and you find out about elf lore. You know, smart way of doing elves is basically we just hire kid actors. Easy way around that for people that kick off. I think I read there's one of them in the opening scene at school, and it's like a little nod. You can see pointy ears, and he doesn't react when he says his dad's Santa Claus. But for the Christmas side of it, it's a strange one. It almost goes from being Christmas film, family drama, Christmas film,
Mm.
and I think you needed a little bit of Christmas scattered through more, and to tone down the intensity of the drama. We're going to take your kid off you. Like, I think that is, for me personally, a bit much for Christmas. And I'm not a kid, but if I was a kid watching this, which I guess I was at one point in my life, there's probably a reason everything's just not memorable. Because what do you remember? You remember he becomes Santa Claus. You remember Santa dying.
Remember the reindeer, you know,
yeah, the animatronic reindeer turning its heads. Is it
fireplaces
animatronic?
appearing, like the snow globe, the magic, like, which is a great, you know, thing to have. You know, I love that element of it. I think it's a great cast as well. Really, you know, it's
Yeah.
a really solid cast, and you know, part of what makes the film work is Charlie. You know, Eric Lloyd does a really great job. I mean, I think we've definitely must have mentioned when we did like Jingle All the Way about, you know, Jake Lloyd, and I think the importance of having, you know, a child actor who can, you know, put in a good performance. And we know it's more difficult to kind of expect something amazing, but it can, you know, it can happen. And I think in this film it really works, and it's quite a double act between father and son in this, which I think lends itself to that classic feeling. You know, there's many films where it is about, okay, you know, the father who works too much, who needs to recognize the importance of family. I think especially in this era, there's a lot of kind of those broken families where, you know, there's been a separation or a divorce, and unfortunately, or fortunately, they're not going to get back together. But how do we make the best of it? So I like that angle with this film where, you know, Scott's ex-wife has married someone else, and they're happy, and they're working on kind of a shared custody arrangement. But then what happens when your ex-husband and child go missing, and you know it's all about Christmas? I can understand their perspective on it, and that's the thing. If my ex was acting a certain way and my child was acting a certain way, then of course I'd be like, okay, it's a bit weird. I do think getting complete custody was a bit too strong of an action at that point, but I understand it, I think.
Yeah, and I think the father-son relationship's sort of integral to this film, and I don't have the divorced dad to know what that's like. I've seen, not to get contextual of what's come out recently, one bad after another, very random tangent. Someone I know was sharing posts about how he resonates so much with the film because he's a single father. I've also sat there, I was like, your daughter gets kidnapped and you go and get high and chase her on the motorway. Can it's not, as I know, it's not as black and white as that. But this would obviously have different impacts, and that is a big part of when you hear about people when they discuss their parents that might split up, how difficult Christmas time can be. You know, rotating the kid one each year, those sorts of things. And I think it's for Disney to do this in a kids' film as well, a bit ballsy by Disney's end, who are normally very safe beyond belief. And I like that he isn't being plastered as this great dad from the beginning either. He's kind of a bit of an arsehole. And I like that his character, at least across that year, he resonates with Christmas not because he's took the role of Santa on, because he knows that's his relationship with the son, is that his son believes he's Santa, and therefore it's essential for him to be able to deliver on that. And I think what this does very well in, maybe this enhances it, something that's definitely improved because of the world we live in now, the sort of corporization of Christmas. I mean, Coca-Cola, they've got the AI advert this year, which sort of epitomizes it all. And and you've got Tim Allen in the room saying, "This isn't Christmas. You're just selling toys that are broken. Why don't we sell them the ones that they can have for an eternity?" And
Yeah.
yes, it's very on the nose, and it's the whole, "Oh my god, he's mad. He doesn't want us to make money." That was a big thing of the 90s, and it is those 90s, not 90s decisions, but you think of like 90s Wall Street, where everyone was going mad. Basically, the generation leading into the financial crash in the late noughties, it was all money-oriented decisions, and we are seeing that again this time, just with the tech firms, not the everyday people. And I sort of admired again them going for that. That it is the essence of Christmas. It is family. It is relationships with people. Again, I can't add too much on the father side of things. I don't have my own kid either, but I certainly the corporate, and I thought it was actually, I don't think of it the opening says like it's quite genius that they have him begin as basically a high up at a toy factory anyway, because it's their busiest time of year. You know, it opens with an awards, and I don't want reading too much into that, but I do think that's a big part of Christmas. It's weird to think about this and then Jingle the Way, because Jingle the Way perfectly, like Jingle the Way is just perfect for like the dad son Christmas, isn't it? Like the dad that didn't get the present, the adventure he's going to go on, the kid. These are two completely different films, but that mid 90s Christmas films, the father son relationships, I think are quite not rare in Christmas films, but it's very few where it's so specifically a father and son story. If that makes more sense saying that out loud.
Potentially, I mean, I'm trying to think now. I'm trying to think of like a mother-daughter thing, and I'm like, where's? I can't even think off the top of my head, and I think it's a great angle. Yeah, it's usually family, and it might be a couple of children with their parent, but I think it's very rarely actually the mother who's I think I think it's just a very traditional thing where the mother is there for the child. Yeah. And it's always the best interest to make it the best, and the father who's doing something else or, working too hard and not actually, thinking about the memories and the experiences of the family. It's money first. And that definitely, seems, we don't know too much backstory about why the marriage ended. Between Scott and Laura, but it's interesting to kind of see their dynamic post-divorce, and see just how he handles life, and then suddenly slowly chipping away throughout that year of, oh, this is actually happening, and I need to take this seriously. And I like that, and I like that his sense of responsibility completely shifts from the beginning of the film, because not only is it, the responsibility of being a good dad, it's the responsibility of being Santa Claus and supporting all the elves and getting all these presents delivered to all the children in the world, And, I think it's important that he's able to share that with his son, that they have a unique experience. And I really love that angle. I think it's incredibly sweet. And if I'd been more emotional when I watched the film, I probably would have cried at the ending, because I think it's very cute, and I feel like at least it does what a good Christmas film should do and make you feel good at the end.
Yeah, that's it. The ending does help with that, and it does tie it up nicely in a bow, because Christmas films are meant to end like that way. They're meant to be nice and cheerful and have the happy ending and get you excited for the big day, or to see your family, or to open your gifts. And it's essential that they do take place in Christmas films. And kind of I'm going with that is, do you have like a favorite scene or anything you want to jump at with this too? Because it's a weird thing, because I really like the concepts, but there's no scenes that like blow me away. I mean, the elf special forces was a lot. I was like,
oh yeah.
I was like, I really don't remember this as a kid. I was like, I'm sure I remember that. That would have been either the coolest or cringiest thing, because I was overall with that sort of stuff as a kid. I hated Jar Jar Binks as a 3-year-old, but I love him as an adult. That sort of decision. But I don't bar like Santa's death, which is really horrible. Like, I think because that's the memory I have, right? It is, and that's very specific, but it is, oh my god, you've killed Santa, I'm going to take over, I'm going to go and do this. I love him becoming Santa later on, like when he starts to put the weight on, when he's growing the beard, the kids at the park that recognize him, I just think is really cute.
Hmm.
I liked all that stuff. But it's it's the drama that I didn't actually care for too much. But yeah, like a favorite scene as such, it probably is. I know it's more of not even a montage, but it's like a very specific 10 minutes in the film. That's the bit where I've really was like, now it feels it's getting really Christmassy again.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have like there's not like a main scene. However, there's a few moments, within the film, I think, and the ones that stick out to me is when Scott takes Charlie for food in the restaurant, and you just see all these other dads, and it's like, are you with the Chinese businessman? And like, no. And it's like, okay, we'll come through here, and then it's got all these dads who clearly have not either prepared for Christmas or something's gone wrong, and they're all sat in the restaurant, and it's just like, we don't have this, but we don't have that, and I just find that really funny. Obviously, the entire kind of delivery of the presents on the first Christmas Eve, and then with that specifically the delivery to the little girl who is asleep on the couch, and the difference between the first year and the second year, I think that's a really cute callback. I'm kind of glad that they had something like that to really showcase the difference in approach from Tim Allen in the role, and just how much he's changed. I think that's really great. And I think finally, and I think this is something that is there's a callback to this in the Santa Claus 2. And it's when Laura and Neil are talking about the Christmas, about not believing in Santa, and part of it's because of the gifts that they desperately wanted as children, which they didn't get. And Scott gives them those gifts at the end of the film. I think that's so sweet, and I love that kind of magic where it's like, we obviously don't know the reason why they didn't get those gifts originally, but the fact that Scott is like, you know what, I've put you through this. I know, you've told me. I've been all ears, and I'm making sure that you get these to kind of bring you back into believing. And I think that's really sweet as well. So those kind of moments stick out for me.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. The cynic in me is like, oh, we're going to find out the backstory, but it wasn't about this film to find out why they didn't get the call. Sorry, why they probably got given call, but didn't say either. They didn't get what they wanted, and it isn't oh, look, there's the better boyfriend. Let's humiliate, embarrass him, make him a horrible person. He's actually just a very upset adult because he didn't get what he wanted. And it handles it so delicately that it doesn't fall into nasty. It just falls into, yeah, you're not meant to like him, but actually, he's not that bad.
He's really funny. I mean, I know Judge Reinhold's been in a bunch of stuff. But I just find him really funny. And I don't know if I would have found him funny as a kid, but as an adult, I'm like, you know what you're doing. I just think he's really fun. So I was really glad that he was that character, because he's so different. I think it's really important that they show kind of the supportive, good family dynamic with the Millers and Charlie, to show that there's no kind of wrong thing here, and that really Scott is in the wrong for taking. I know he didn't take Charlie, that was Bernard who took Charlie, but just that that shouldn't have happened, and I'm glad that they come to a resolution at the end.
Definitely. And if I sort of go into my finals as well, it's a weird one because I was a bit negative when I started. I didn't mean to be. I understand why this is a classic film. I am going to say it's been better talking about it with you because I've been a bit more positive than I thought. I think because it didn't have what I hoped it had. I'm not going to say I'm disappointed, because you can't say about a 30-plus-year-old film. But
I mean, you can be disappointed.
Not like, oh, it was a childhood classic and I watched it as an adult and it was bad. That's when I'm disappointed. But I don't have that much of a childhood attachment of the very specific, oh, I remember this, oh, this wasn't the same. But I was like, oh, I still really liked him turning to Santa. I was like, but I didn't care for a lot of the drama stuff. I'm actually come out of this half curious about the second one, if it's an improvement. Because I know there was a couple of them, and that's left me wondering. Maybe I'll watch it over the next few weeks, but I still think this film's fine. Like, it's, as you said, right? It's every Christmas film is someone's favorite Christmas film, and this certainly from a family perspective, I understand it. I love the concept of you've killed him, okay, by mistake, but you wear the mantle now. You have to take over. You have to do that job. I really like that as a concept. I don't want to sound stupid. I'm surprised it took till the mid-90s. Whether this, I don't know if this is something that's been tried or tested before, but I'm gobsmacked it took them till the 90s to do a Santa. I mean, I remember the Raymond Briggs animated Santa Claus. Well, that's called Father Christmas, but yeah, I'm fine with the film. I just don't have a lot to say on it, which is kind of sad. But I guess that's the way it is. It's got some great memorable scenes, and it rightfully is deemed a Christmas classic as well, I will add.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, the only notes that I really wanted to talk about were just about some of the cast, only because there's some smaller minor roles where there's just some cast members where I'm like, this is a little bit insane.
Yeah.
And there's a couple that I just want to mention. And one is Mary Gross, who played Miss Daniels, so Charlie's teacher. And Mary Gross was on Saturday Night Live, a long time ago. I know her mostly as Mrs. Quick from Sabrina the Teenage Witch TV series. So that was just kind of fun to see her as another teacher in that. And then also Peter Boyle, who was Scott's boss, who I feel a lot of people will know from Everybody Loves Raymond. I will always go to Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, where he was Old Man Wickles in that. And in this film, he plays Mr. Whittle. So I don't know if there's anything there. He was also in Beyond the Poseidon Adventure, which is one of the worst films I've ever seen and should not have been made because it is nothing compared to the original Poseidon Adventure. Although another thing about Peter Boyle actually is that he appears in the second and third Santa Claus film as Father Time. And I completely forgot about that. So it will be interesting if I do watch the second and third one again. I mean, if you don't already know based on this, the second one I love a lot, but I've not seen that in probably around 15 years. So I'll see about that. And then, of course, you mentioned him earlier, David Krumholtz, who has been a lot of things. He was in Addams Family Values the year before this, which I think is the best Addams Family film by a mile. And he also comes back in the Santa Claus 2 as well. And I think I maybe had a little crush on him in that film. Obviously, that's made years after this. So he does look different, but he still looks youthful enough where he could still play the same, elf character. I think almost every other elf character is just a new child, which is, it's just really funny now to kind of think about that, because as a kid I don't think you think, oh yeah, they've cast children and they have to do all this stuff. But yeah, and also I think he comes back in the Santa Claus's TV show as well, and I think a lot of the cast do. I think if we're going to say a good thing about this as a franchise, it seems like a lot of the key players return for almost every iteration of this. And to me, that's kind of a really, really nice thing, that if this is your favorite film or one of your favorite films, then you've not just got this, you've got 3 films and a TV show, which I think is really sweet and clearly showcases that this film had enough legs to warrant more. And even though I think it's safe to say me and you are not going to say that it's our favorite Christmas classic by any stretch, we enjoyed it. And I'm glad that a lot of other people enjoy it more than us. I just wish I'd gotten a little bit more from the film.
Yeah, no, I'm in that same boat. And it will be interesting to hear from other people. So please do comment your thoughts on the Santa Claus. Maybe we've disemboweled your childhood in a really polite, friendly way. We've not been that scathing of it. I think maybe it's because some of the films we have done on this series and what we've been able to discuss about them has been really quite something, discovering new films or revisiting classics, ones we know we love, ones we see every year. So we are going to continue doing that. But what I will say is on Thursday, we are staying with Santa to an extent. We are going to be doing Bad Santa, a film I have not seen, a film I have seen clips from. a film that many people speak about. Obviously, it's a black comedy. Billy Bob Thornton's in the leading role. I am excited to tick it off as a new watch. I don't know. Have you seen it before? I don't think you have either. Is it?
No, I've not either.
It's a first time watch for both of us, which might be the first or second time that's happened. I would need to check. But
It's
I am
rare.
like, it's rare and it's great. And this is what I love, that through the series we do get to watch new films, and it isn't as set as we're doing a franchise, we're doing an actor, or we're doing a director. It's like, boom, Christmas film we're not seeing, let's go. Or maybe one of us has seen it, one of us hasn't. So I'm excited to watch Bad Santa. I hope it's good. That is the worrying thing when it's a film none of us have seen. Is that asterisk? We hope it is good for the sake of the video.
Yeah, for sure.
But I guess you guys at home will find out in a few days. So that is going to be everything. What else is happening on the channel? As we said, we've got the Pixar retrospective. We'll be talking to Tim Allen in our Toy Story 2 review that's going to go up on Tuesday. And we will have had a Bugs Life video review. I say starring Sam, sorry, with Sam. Not that you're not starring in it. There's three of us. But we're into the Pixar retrospective. And for a bit of context, people curious, we're quite far ahead at recording at the moment because we'd like to have a break at Christmas. We've got Christmas videos to do. I don't want to be sitting there talking about Pixar in a really polite way on Christmas week thinking, oh my God, I need to edit all these things. We're planning early. We're working early. And it's exciting that we get to do that too. So that is us rounding out for the first episode. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care, and we'll see you then.